And now for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 389 of This Old Marketing for Friday, August 18th, 2023. And with me, as always, as he always is, a guy who's as confused as anybody about whether the Browns are actually going to be good this year, Mr. Joe Polizzi. Come on in here.
I'm feeling good about the season this year for the Browns because I'm not feeling good about the Browns, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. You said this last year where you were going to stop going to games because the games that you didn't go to, they actually won.
So if you were asking me, like, what if we ever do a prediction show? Like, I think they're going to.
Those are so rare for us.
If we might have one soon.
Yeah.
If I was going to predict the Cleveland Browns season right now, I would say 8-9. Now,
what and is that good? I mean,
that's not good.
That's not expectations.
But that's why I'm feeling so negative about the season. That's generally a good sign, because when I'm really down on the Browns, they tend to perform well. So I'm like really going negative. And 8-9, by the way,
that's you do you. I mean, I think that's one way to go about it.
Historically, that's pretty good, though. Like 8-9.
Well, historically for the Browns, that's a great season.
Would be upper echelon type record for them. But I have to say, if you were to look at the team on paper, and of course we do that a lot in Cleveland,
of course,
you would have to say they have enough talent to win. They have enough talent to make the playoffs this year.
They certainly have enough talent to take that division. They absolutely have enough talent to take that division.
And they should at least be competitive with Cincinnati this year.
Oh,
but
sure. Yes.
Whether or not they can win, I guess. So here's my take with Coach Stefanski. I don't know if he has taught the team or what has to happen for them to believe that in the last moments of the game that they can win. Because it's always close, as most NFL games are. Like, that's go into the fourth quarter, it's generally most games are within a score or two.
Yeah.
But the Browns, for some reason, seem to be just short all the time for the last 30 years. Just a little short.
Yeah.
As opposed to the
so
Cowboys.
Much so that you actually have names for the plays. You were telling me this when I visited you last. It's like,
that's how you know.
The fourth down, or you have the names fumble for all the plays.
Yeah. Red Right 88. Like we have all the, and they're never positive plays.
Right.
Yeah, they're always negative. Opposing to like the Cowboys, I want to get your take on that. But historically, the Cowboys have been equal on paper, but they always find a way to win in the end. Maybe not. Well, in the past few
they
years,
do.
But historically, they have.
That's right. Well, the story about the Cowboys is, of course, they find a way to win in the regular season. They always have good, if not always winning seasons, and then get into the playoffs and fold like paper. I mean, they just that's the story of them is for the last 20 years. They've had even or a average or better than average records, and taking the division some years, not taking the division some years, done very well, 12-3 or whatever it is, and then get into the playoffs and then fold immediately, just like crumble. And so that's so the question is, because they're of course coming in with all kinds of hype from last year and with their very good offseason that they had with the free agent talent that they acquired and all of that. There's a lot of hype around them, which I'm kind of bummed about.
Yeah, you don't want hype. You want it below the radar is always better.
That's right. So
that's why it's better for the Browns this year, because Deshaun Watson isn't in the news every day like he was last year. I mean, he's just sort of like, oh, what will Deshaun do? But here's the two things I want to bring. I want to get your take on, or at least, least vent. I'm going to vent. I've been a Brown season ticket holder for a long, long time, as you know.
Yes.
There's two things I don't understand about the current situation of the Browns. One is they right now have two of the top 10 running backs. I think people would agree with Kareem Hunt and Chubb. Two of the best. Chubb might be the best running back in the league. We don't know, but right up there, right?
Yeah.
Why can't you play both at the same time? Why is that a bad thing? Why won't they do that? Do you have an answer for this?
I do not have an answer for you, because I would absolutely think that they would do some of those interesting positions. I mean, look, the Cowboys did it. I don't know if they'll do it this year, but they did it all the time with Zeke and Tony Pollard.
Right, and that's how Tony Pollard really busted out.
That's right.
Now is one of the better running backs in the league.
That's right.
You give him chances. Kareem Hunt, we already know what he can do. It's just why don't you put all your best players on the field at the same time? What are we saving it for?
Yeah, that's right.
Is it? So anyways, that's the thing. And I go to games and I don't understand. I see Kareem Hunt on the bench and then they switch. They relieve each other.
That's right.
Why? Yeah. Why? We're on the field so few times as it is. They can't be that tired. You
could scheme for it too. You could scheme for it, because that's one of the things that I think the Cowboys did very well last year, was they schemed for, they would, for example, and this is too simplistic, but just for example, they would put in Zeke when it was a pass play, because he was much better at pass blocking, but could also be a good decoy for a run or a screen or something like that. And when it was clearly going to be a running play, because Pollard's just not that great at pass blocking, they would hand it off to him. So it wasn't a relief situation. It wasn't it was basically a based on the play scheme that they would put in one over the other.
And by the way, for our friends who are not football fans, Zeke is Ezekiel Elliott.
That's right. Yes.
Pollard is Tony Pollard.
That's right.
Everyone we're talking about are running backs.
That's
and
right.
This is the National Football League.
That is correct.
Just putting it out there. So, because we always get complaints from, would you just why do I have to forward to 12 minutes?
But it is that time of year. It is.
Well, you don't listen to Smartless podcast, but I know you know what it is, right?
I do.
Okay. Well, Sean Hayes' sister Tracy. So whenever they're talking about something that's sort of inside baseball, they say, "Oh, for my sister Tracy," and they explain it. So we don't we need to have somebody I'm not going to say my sister Leah. I guess I could, but she doesn't listen, so it doesn't matter. But if we had a listener that didn't understand anything about marketing, content marketing, creation, or the NFL, we could say, this is for
I like
Yolanda.
We should have or
Jimmy.
Let's put it out there. I would like a volunteer from the audience, please.
Yeah, that doesn't understand anything about football.
Go to the website.
Anything else we're talking about.
Leave us a voicemail about all of the facts that you're devoid of, and let us know, and you will become our sister Leah. You will become our sister,
or
brother Leon,
or whatever.
Right?
It doesn't matter. We don't care.
We don't care.
But it would be great. A cousin.
Yes, yeah. That's right.
Third cousin out of state. No, that's a check.
Yeah.
Third party out of state check.
Very quickly, are you watching the Hard Knocks?
Okay, yeah, I want to ask you about it because I haven't been, but I have to get my second rant out.
Oh, okay. Well, get the second.
And this is a customer service thing.
Okay.
Maybe somebody can explain this to me. Again, been a Cleveland Brown season holder for a long time.
Yes.
We have 2 tickets. My wife has a ticket and I have a ticket. And this year, the season ticket holder gift is a jacket. It's a very nice jacket. It's like a spring or maybe even a winter jacket. It's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah.
Having 2 season tickets, we get 1. And so I got the note that, hey, we're so happy to have you back as a season ticket holder, Joe, +1. You get what's the size of your jacket?
Right. It's 1 account with 2 tickets, basically.
And I said, that's great, but we have 2 season tickets, not just 1. Are we to share a jacket?
Yeah.
How does this work? And I said, and I got back to our rep and I said, look, I'm not complaining, but why?
Right.
There's 2 tickets. Why are you sending us 1 jacket? We're not the same size.
Family. 1 per family is what they think. Did he say that? Did he say one per family?
No, they said I know you're not complaining. They sort of repeated what I said because I said I'm not complaining.
Well, they did that for the recording.
I said
for the recording.
I said, "Can somebody explain this to me?" I said, "I just want to." And she said, "We will forward this on to management."
Okay, thanks.
So I just wanted to put that out there to anyone who has rewards programs, and if you have 2 people or 3 people or 4 people, that's 4 things or 3 things or 2 things, not one for everyone.
Make it make
share.
sense. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So I've heard the nutso Hard Knocks stuff that's going on. You've watched it. What's going on? Is this all about Aaron Rodgers, the new quarterback for the Jets?
He is. I mean, look, this is I think somewhat of a rehabilitation branding.
It's like a PR thing for Aaron Rodgers because he's the vaccination stuff,
and all the stuff last year that he went through, and the year before, and all of that, and my wife hates him now. Like my wife used to go, "Oh, that's Aaron Rodgers. That guy's pretty good." Blah blah blah, and she, based on all the stuff that came out about him, she was like, she can't stand him.
Well, but just so everybody knows, Aaron Rodgers was quarterback of the Green Bay Packers forever and ever.
That's right.
Future Hall of Famer, great quarterback, has now since gone to New York Jets, and HBO's Hard Knocks, which features an NFL team every year, is featuring the New York Jets this year.
That's right.
The main character, Aaron Rodgers.
That's
is it working? Is the question?
I think so. Oh, I definitely think it's working for him. I mean, he's chewing the scenery. I mean, he's walking around, he's like a little peacock with his little feathers out, and he's just having the best time ever. Because I mean, everybody on the team is just like, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is in our team, and oh, it's a love fest for Aaron Rodgers on that show. So far, 2 episodes in, it's a love fest to Aaron Rodgers, and look, he's a great quarterback and all that, but just it's a little like okay, enough's enough.
Well, I mean, good for the NFL and HBO for choosing the Jets this year, because there actually is a story. I mean, it's not really on those shows. That show's not about
Jets
football.
Are going to be good, by the way. The Jets are going to be. I think they're going to be a good team. Yeah, they're.
I'm sorry. Did you say the Jets are going to be good?
I did.
Like the Browns are going to be good.
That's a bold prediction. That's a bold prediction, but I do.
Okay, Robert says it here. I'm going to book. Jets are going to be good. I'm going to say 7-10. That's what I'm going to say.
No, Jets, they're going to have a winning record for sure.
Jets 7-10. Browns 8-9. Cowboys.
I'm going to go Cowboys. Let's see. What would it be? It would be.
There's 17 games in a season.
I know. I understand. I'm thinking 12-5. 12-5.
All right. You can't see this. I'm going to throw this up there right here. This is 10-7. Oh, 10-7. I wrote it down before you did, just so.
Okay.
10-7, wild card.
Okay.
For Dallas.
Right. Okay.
Browns 8-9. Nothing happens.
Okay.
Again.
Oh my God.
Yes. Come on.
Yeah.
What? How long? They won the Browns won in 64. It was the last year before there was a Super Bowl.
You got to believe, man. It's a Cleveland.
65,
is it Cleveland
the Packers
believe town or whatever?
I mean, in the history of football, professional football, Cleveland Browns have been one of the more dominant teams, but nobody knows this because in the last 60 years, not much.
Yeah,
not much has happened.
All right, let's move on from football.
I don't want to now. I don't even want to do the show.
Yeah,
I'm upset. I'm tearing up right here. I'm
tearing.
I'm devastated. I've given my part of my life.
Cry.
I promised you, even when COVID happened, remember I said I'm not going to focus on sports anymore. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I lied obviously because my heart hurts.
Yeah,
I want this to happen. What kind of show do we have today?
It's not. Look, I'm gonna pull a movie quote for you right now, and it's basically, Joe, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
You know what? If you talk to most Browns fans, they definitely internalize it. I actually feel it is my fault. I feel like I haven't done enough.
Joe, it's not your fault. That's
I'm not going to cry. You're not going to make me cry. I'm the ambassador
hunting. That's a Goodwill Hunting reference for those of you.
I rolled that Goodwill Hunting reference right into Jerry Maguire, is what I did.
Oh, well, there's that too. Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, so
all right, let's get to our show. So before people just completely think this is an NFL show,
it pretty much is.
We are going to talk about some fun things today. There's the theme of the show is all about fake content, I think, because we're going to certainly start off with AI and how a number of AI generated books are now flooding Amazon, and we'll talk a little bit about what the implications of that might be. Then we'll talk about a meme that's going around TikTok and really all over social media about a movie that either was or wasn't, we don't know, and how this might actually start to affect other areas that aren't necessarily as pop culture related. Then we'll also talk about what AI might mean to SEO and really feature a Rand Fishkin video and article that is quite good and informative about what we might be looking at when we look at Google search as in a world of AI and how we might start thinking about optimizing our content for that. Then we'll get to our rants and raves section, of course, and Joe is going to rave or provide some level of commentary about the documentary This Changes Everything, which I've seen and can also.
You just watched it too, right?
I did just watch it.
So we both just watched it. Okay.
And then I'm going to rave about a new survey research out from the Content Marketing Institute that I had a little bit of a hand in, and just it's a fantastic and a very interesting research study, and just thought I'd bring it to everybody's attention because it's nice. It's really fascinating.
It is good.
Where salaries and careers are in content marketing in this time of the world. So there you have it.
Down,
good,
up,
hot
what is
August
it?
Show.
What is it? What are careers? Are they going up? Are they down? Okay. You're gonna fill us in.
I think yes, I'm gonna fill you in, but I think the spoiler alert is that there is a lot of freak out going on about AI right now, but generally speaking, I think there's an opportunity for businesses to really differentiate in this space with talent acquisition, and I think that's the next. I think that's my prediction for the next few quarters. Is talent acquisition is going to become the new differentiator for content and marketing.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Let's jump into it, shall we? We are going to feature our first story, which is going to come to us courtesy of Axios. And Axios has the headline, AI-generated books are infiltrating online bookstores. The article opens up by saying, the book market is beginning to show cracks under new pressures from generative AI as the technology cuts a swath across creative industries. AI-generated pseudo-books are spamming Amazon and other online bookstores, sometimes borrowing real authors' names, and I can vouch for that. Actually, I've seen some friends, to squat on their virtual real estate. Meanwhile, the use of books in the training of AI firms' large language models remains hotly contested as authors seek to prevent unauthorized, uncompensated use of their work. Searches on Amazon, estimated to control at least half of all U.S. book sales and an even bigger share of the growing ebook market, are increasingly turning up mediocre AI-generated titles filled with unreliable information and soggy prose. The writer was happy with that adjective. The article goes on to talk about some of the verticals, travel, AI, those kinds of things that are sort of more prone to this than others. What do you make of all of this?
Well, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Is my first thought. Second thought is I'm not sure how large online booksellers like Amazon, like even B&N, are going to be able to handle the amounts of fake books, if you will, whether they're AI generated or not. I mean, fake books have been a problem for a long time. As soon as the internet was created, there were fake books. You and I have had weird books in our, that we had to look at, like, who did that and what country is that coming from and on. Yeah. We've seen it for a long, long time. But with the ease now of creating something that looks like a real book and then throwing somebody else's name on it, I mean, you add in all the, people already know, listen to the show. Why did I even go to get verified on Meta and Instagram? It's because of the number of fake accounts that are out there. So you have just fake accounts and people that are coming from that stance. And then, the ease where I can create a somewhat intelligent book from whatever large language model I'm pulling over from, or GPT or whatever I'm using to do that. And boom, in a matter of days, I can have 50 books from 50 top authors in 50 categories that look real.
That's right.
And I mean, if you look at in the story from Axios, Jane Friedman, popular thought leader in the writing space, amazing writer in her own right, had this happen to her, and to go to Amazon and Goodreads and to get this stuff taken off is not easy. And she even said the only reason she thinks that Amazon works so fast is because Jane is really well known in the industry.
That's right.
She said, well, what do smaller authors do, or more, not as well known authors, when this happens to them? And it's going to happen. Like, I'm trying to prepare when Killing Marketing or somebody comes out with something in your name or my name. Yeah. Like, what do we do about that?
I think there's a real opportunity here for publishers. I really do. Including, by the way, the recent acquisitor of your little company, which is to start to certify and provide a level of good housekeeping seal of approval, as it were. I think that's a real opportunity for mainstream publishers and even the boutique publishers that help authors do this, because you could see that becoming sort of the standard, right? Which is, if I'm going to look at a business book, or if I'm going to look at any book, and it's not published by someone that I recognize as being a standard publisher, then I have to assume that it may be a fake or a copy or something like that. So I think there's a real opportunity here. But I agree with you. I think this is not going away anytime soon, and it's certainly not helpful for independent, smaller authors who have enjoyed some level of ability, right, to circumvent some of the, we talked about this a couple of shows ago, where, the opportunity for authors these days was to circumvent some of the sort of more bureaucratic or challenges that mainstream publishers had, and democratized it to the effect where, you can put your own book out and sell a bit and basically make some money off of it, right? This is, by the way, in the fiction and nonfiction space. And now, with the AI sort of swarming the market, that's obviously, I think it's going to be a wave. I think you're going to see a wave of it happen, and then it'll probably die down quite a bit, because I'm not sure the business model is going to work very well. Flooding the market doesn't tend to, and it is some level of effort to do this, right? It's not like it's just, 3 clicks and you're done. You actually have to go do some stuff to put a book onto Amazon store. So I'm not sure that the business model of the swarming with that is going to really work. It's going to be a very hit or miss, low percentage thing, but we'll see. But I do think that it does provide an opportunity for companies that have a level of trust and authenticity with consumers to start to differentiate. Like, if you don't see McGraw-Hill, or if you don't see Lulu, or if you don't see whoever it is on as a partner here, then you can't be sure it's not fake kind of campaign.
Well, to your point, I mean, one of the reasons why we're trying to work out our Tilt publishing model is to sell direct.
Yeah.
The benefits of selling, like, I'm not trying to be in pitch mode here, but this is the way that I've always felt. The benefits of selling on Amazon were significant a decade ago and are not so much anymore. So you don't get any customer data that buys that. But in this kind of situation, if I want to differentiate myself and I have built a brand, I have an audience, I'm selling direct. I want to sell direct from my site. It's very hard for somebody to come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to go ahead and totally copy Joe Polizzi's site and everything that has to do with Joe." And Joe, I can't, what are they going to do to Joe Polizzi dot something else? then I'm going to fake the books. It's a much harder proposition for somebody to come in than just say, hey, if I'm Joe Polizzi and I have a book, go to joepolizzi.com. I'm going to sell direct. I get that data. I get that revenue. I don't have to go through that other step of Amazon where it's much easier for somebody to go ahead and fake being you.
That's a great point. And
I don't know how much of a competitive differentiator that is, but whereas in the 10 years ago, I told you, like, I don't know if I would have gone direct. Today, I'm like, I'm losing excuses for why I would go through Amazon now. If you have your own audience built and you generate more money and you get all the data, why do I want to go through that step of basically saying, oh, I want to be where all my competition is, and I have a tougher time proving that it's really me.
Yeah, that's a great point. It really is, because what that would suggest is that it's in Amazon's best interest, depending on how much they really care about books, which is arguable. But depending on how much they do care about books, it's in their best interest to fix this, right? To make sure that it's something, because if it starts to ruin the marketplace, basically if swarming the marketplace with bad or copied or challenged product is going to spoil the marketplace for consumers, well, then they'll just go elsewhere. They'll just stop buying books on Amazon and then going direct or going to some other competitor who can actually, do that is going to be much easier. So I think that's a really interesting point.
I'm under the assumption that Amazon will find a fix for this, but it is beyond me right now that Amazon doesn't have a process for verification. That you can just go up and say, I'm Jane Friedman, and there's your book.
Yes.
I'm like, what, where's the extra step? And thankfully you have Meta and some other folks out there that are saying, you need to verify. You need to show me a government ID. You need to do it securely. It's a kind of it is not the easiest process, but it should be at least that for putting a book up online.
And that's another great point, which is, and I can speak personally to this. The Amazon author services aspect of what they do is janky. I mean, that is an official quote. It is janky. It is broken beyond, it just, the amount of how, first of all, how easy it is to associate anybody's name with a book to as an author. And then secondly, managing your own profile, there's no verification. It's like they never asked me who I was or to prove who I was. They just said, oh, did you write this book? And I said, yeah, I did. Here, give me an email address and boom, you're in. And now I'm associated with that book. And, I'm an honest person. So I actually claimed the books that I actually wrote. So, and thankfully, I will tell you that's one of the nice things about what the publisher did for me this time was I didn't even have to think about that, right? They just, as they put my book out on Amazon and all the other places, they take care of all that, right? They take care of associating with my name and they put it in the thing and they've got special of relationships there. And it's just harder. It's just harder if you're an independent author to do that because, and to your point, if that would solve everything, right? Pretty much. If you just verified authors, just verified who you have to prove who you are. And it's so funny that that's really coming down to so many of what we're dealing with in social media and in traditional media and with where we are with so many different things, crypto and banking and finance and just about everything that we're doing online. It is literally about just proving that you are who you are, verifying who you are, because it solves so many of the issues that we're having today. I tend to go overboard with this stuff, but even financially, I'm like, because I look at any of the things that could happen digitally. Like, okay, let's look at AI worst case scenarios, and you think about whatever, and I'm like, well, I want to verify that those funds are mine. And what happens if TD Ameritrade or whatever Schwab, something happens to them, and like I don't have access to that account, but that's mine, and what those are the types of things. Just that I'm a little concerned. I get a little concerned about that. I want to know good. That. Well, I'll say that so I'm a TD Ameritrade, was a TD Ameritrade customer, and
now it's becoming Schwab.
And I thought they handled it brilliantly. I thought this
transition,
the transition over, which happened in May of this year or whatever, and here's the way it's going to work, and here's how it's associated, and here's what you're going to have, and here's here's what you have to do. And I thought they did it very well. I thought they did it very, very well.
So that form of error, I mean, how many things that we had to have to show and prove that we're us? I think Amazon's going to have to go
exactly
into that direction for authors.
Yep. I think that for content creators,
and they do
do
for sellers.
Yeah,
they do for sellers.
Right.
They just need to take the seller. I'm sure they're already doing this. I don't want to discount. There's a lot of smart people at Amazon, but in looking at some of these stories from the article and from what Jane was talking about, it boggles my mind that this is allowed to happen.
Right.
And so if they don't come up with a fix soon, it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of fake content and those kinds of things, this is a story that just absolutely fascinated me when you sent it over.
Courtesy of Todd. Todd M sent this over to us, and I was like blown away by
Todd.
this.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Yeah. This is just really fascinating. And I'm a TikTok fan. Like I'm a pretty heavy consumer, but I have not seen anything about this. The headline is, I can't find anything about this movie. Why are people talking about a fake 1987 horror film on TikTok? Zapata, a 1987 horror movie, and TikTok are referencing it. Right? Exactly. It was all started. It's a fake movie. It doesn't ever exist, but it was talked about by an 18-year-old musician, Emily Jeffrey, who posted a video about it on August 12th. So this is literally 7 days ago. It's
crazy how quickly this happens.
It's amazing how fast this has happened. Supposed to be a horror movie from the 80s, and TikTok user Emily Jeffrey posted over the weekend about coming up with a new bit, quote unquote, where TikTok users comment references to this movie, Zapata, on other people's videos. Together we'll witness lore develop, main characters will emerge, we can convince thousands of people that this weirdly titled 80s horror film actually exists. And they did. The video now has over 6 million views, and Jeffrey has since posted follow-ups, including ones that play along with the bit, like pretending people tell her she looks like the main character, even filming it in front of a fake Wikipedia page. And thousands of people took to Jeffrey's initial instructions, and they took it seriously and started commenting on other people's videos. Alyssa McKay apparently is an influencer, and she's got more than 10 million followers, filmed a video asking her audience what the movie was about because she kept getting comments about it. And so they've created this mythology around a movie that didn't exist, and basically, it's amazing. Before we jump into this, I want to say, and I don't mean this is how it's going to sound, like to puff out my chest or anything, but I actually had this idea back in 2004. I was going to create. Because when I was in 2004, I was still creating a lot of music, and doing music for, it was kind of a side hustle for me. I was doing some music for films and for TV shows and stuff like that, and I would occasionally get something picked up. And I was actually going to create a fake band. I was going to create this fake band and do pictures of them and create this website and create this whole mythology around this band. And basically market the band and with my music and see if I could make it a thing. So first of all, I love this idea because it was something that I had thought about, but they obviously took it to a much deeper level. And I think the implications of this are so big. But anyway, I'll get your take on this. What did you think about this?
Well, I guess when I saw it, I was surprised that it doesn't happen more often, was my first thought. And I guess it does. I mean, if you want to know how some of the conspiracy theories that we're dealing with in the world have happened, this is how they start.
That's right.
Somebody
this is just a more innocent version of it's a more innocent and sort of wholesome version of, all of the conspiracy theories that are out there about, drinking the blood of children and all that stuff.
Yeah, and pizza place and the whole thing. Yeah,
exactly, like if all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you have a certain group of people with influence that can communicate a message, and then those tell them to communicate, and that's exactly, hey, my followers, this is what I want you to spread, and they all did it. They were all commenting on everybody else's feeds to enough where you had other TikTokers that were saying, what is this going on? And everybody looks into it. It becomes a thing.
Yep.
And of course, this happened in 2 or 3 days. And
it's amazing how fast it's happened. Yeah.
So it's concerning because, we talked about in the day, you had 3 or 4 main news channels. You had a couple main papers, but even your local papers took their big news from the larger entities and Associated Press. Well, now you can create realities 70,000 different ways or more. And each of those little media companies have their own audiences. And then you start questioning what's the truth. Add in a little AI to this.
Well,
nobody's going to know what the truth is.
Well, and here's the thing. My first thing that I did was I got to go ask ChatGPT and Bard what they think about this. So I went to both. I went to both ChatGPT and Bard, and I asked, "Tell me about the plot of Zapata."
Oh, what did it say?
And it both of them, thank goodness, came back with Zapata's a fake movie, that it was created with a meme, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, it even had it up to date. I'm surprised it even knew.
Yes. Now, I didn't use the short rant here. So I didn't use ChatGPT Direct. I have this is not an endorsement, but
you have a pro account.
It is a good tool. It is a good tool. I will say that. I use a tool called Copy.ai. And so it's been useful for me as a sort of interface into ChatGPT, and it's got some things I can save, and it's good and all that. But again, I get nothing from that, just saying it as a fact. And so I use that. So I think it's got some capabilities that just the general ChatGPT doesn't, in terms of being more current. But Bard is actually searching now the web. It's got an index to it, so it's ChatGPT, or excuse me, Bard is more up to date. But both of them came back perfectly. Basically, explained the meme, explained it. Had sources for it. All that kind of stuff. So
were they real sources or were they fake sources?
No. Well, they were sources to the articles about the.
I love some of the results they come back. Their sources made up sources.
Yes, I have seen that too.
Examples like that.
I have definitely seen that as well.
This is crazy. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm sure this will happen more and more, but. Especially now that this took off, you had the idea. Emily here, she goes and executes it. You're going to have somebody else do the same thing with something else. So maybe now is time to get your band thing going.
Well, it's very funny. The funny thing is that I actually thought about that again. It made me think about it again. But it reminds me very much. There's it's a corollary. It's not exactly the same, but there's a corollary. Are you familiar with Michaela, the social media influencer? That is actually so Michaela is an AI created image.
I know what you're talking about.
So sure. Michaela is a model and a personality, and basically posts on Instagram and has, I don't know, last I checked, millions of followers, and basically, dresses in cute clothes and sort of, does and basically everything a fashion model would do, but it's completely made up. It's a completely made up personality made by artificial intelligence. So it's kind of like that. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the sort of made up personalities and made up quote unquote celebrities that are going to start to rise in some level of popularity. To your great point last week when you said, but there's a human behind it. There's going to be humans behind all of this because it takes a human to create those things. So it's just
for now it does. Yeah.
Well, I think it's always going to be a human at the root of all of this, but it will be very interesting to watch this space over the coming months and years to see what starts to resonate. Because it is going to get really interesting with sort of the ability to create. Fake is not the right word, but it's basically creating artificial celebrity, and I think it's just going to be a fascinating thing.
So we didn't plan to talk about this, but I don't know if you read the article in The Atlantic about Sam Altman. if you get a chance.
I did. Yes.
It's like, it took me like an hour and a half to read this thing. It's so long.
Yeah.
Of course, I read slower than you do, but they moved up whatever. I forgot the organization that said we would get sentient AI by 2050, and that was moved to 2024. But the thing that they were talking about in the article is the number of AI companies that will be fully autonomous in the next couple of years. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around that. Like you say, there's a human behind it. At some point, somebody makes a decision to start this thing, but they were saying, you're going to have basically everything will be run by some AI computer bot. All these decisions will be made, supply chain, marketing. And I'm thinking about this. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know how to feel about that. Second of all, I absolutely think this will happen. And third is what area of Wyoming am I going to buy land, and how deep do I build the hole? Is kind of the third thing that I was thinking.
I'm
you're not there yet, maybe.
I'm not there yet.
I'm getting there.
I'm not quite there yet. I mean, it's a little monster movie-ish for me, but obviously they're very, very smart people and way smarter than me, and so they would probably know better. But I put on my sort of philosopher hat for a moment, and at the end, a company that is fully run by AI has to be assembled, right? I mean, it's not, in other words, you have to decide on a product, you have to decide on a service, you have to decide on the way it's going to get sold, you have to do, all the operations.
All those things, I understand that a human being can start, but theoretically, all those other decisions, if you said what's the mission? The mission of this thing is to be profitable, or whatever the mission is, then you let it do its thing. And it will make those. It will make all those decisions.
Not there yet. I'm not there.
Well, it's only
you have to give it the instruction to do the thing, right? Because otherwise, you've got an octopus, right? You've got 8 arms going 8 different directions. So I
don't know if you saw the example in this article, but it talked about they gave this AI program instructions to do something, and it had to go to a series of sites. And one of the sites then asked, "Are you a robot?" And the AI answered no, like lied, because had to lie in order to finish the project.
Right.
So already making decisions. So I'm like, okay, well, that happened quickly. I don't know what to make of it. And I guess I don't have frustration about it, but when I talk about this stuff on LinkedIn, everyone goes to, we need an authentic human, and those people that are using AI or whatever they're doing. So, and I'm like, you're just talking about the next 6 months, people. Like, I don't think we don't have a firm grasp, and anybody who says they know, they don't know.
Well, that's
the concern. Is
I was talking about
this is moving so fast. We don't know.
Yeah,
what's going to happen.
That was something I said. I was on a podcast yesterday, and somebody asked me about that, and I said that's the thing that really sort of irks me the most, is how much now I see marketing talking about, marketing from companies and from consultants and from others who are saying, I'm a master of AI. We're the experts in this. We know exactly what's going on, and you should trust us to tell you exactly what to do. It's like, no. You've been an expert in this for exactly 7 months, so nobody knows. No, we're all figuring this out.
Yeah, I talked to a CEO of an agency the other day. Pretty large agency.
Yeah. And
they have a director of AI. They have an AI council. They have all these things going. But clearly he said to me, he's like, we don't have a clue.
Right.
Nobody does. Anybody who says they know what's going on, they don't.
Does not.
They do not know. So I guess that's the point. And I guess I share your frustration with somebody that says, oh, this is the way it's going to be. You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know. The only thing that I know is that the majority of the AI scientists out there are also preppers. And you're like, oh, there are. What does that tells me a lot? That's all.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
There you go. And that's all you really need to know is the fact that the true AI academics and those that have been studying it for a decade, they're the first ones to tell you we don't know, right?
But they also have their contingent plan of
yes, exactly,
getting a bunker
yes.
and buying lots of canned
yes.
food.
Yes, the fact that they're worried is worrisome. That's that is absolutely true. Well, speaking of AI, on an upbeat note, there is a fascinating new article by Rand Fishkin, who both of us know. Rand is a good guy, and
we had dinner with Rand. Remember when we had dinner with Rand?
We had a great dinner with Rand.
It was wonderful.
It was so much. It was so interesting, and he's such an interesting man. And he was talking about, in this article, he's talking about AI and search results. And I like this article so much because it's nuanced, it's complex, and even the face that he has in the video, it's like, really?
What you talking about with us?
That's exactly. As he says in the beginning of the article, in the not too distant future, we're going to look back at the days when a full 1/3 of Google searches result in a free click to open web and marvel at how good we had it. For the last few months, Google's been telegraphing that generative AI answers will soon appear in search results. These pieces of content will be drawn from training data, i.e. all of the web content you've worked hard to create, and amalgamated to produce user-satisfying answers, basically preventing searchers from clicking on anything that takes them out of Alphabet's properties. Will this spell the end of SEO or the end of the good times in search marketing? Maybe, he says, but I think it opens up an entirely new way to do marketing and search results. And he goes on to then, at great length, fantastically educational article about talking about the ways that content can be started to be connected to each other, and some of the ways that we might start to think about the ways that we do link building, the ways that we connect content to each other, and the kind of content that we might need to be able to create in order to start to prepare for that kind of interface from Google and like-minded search engines. And so it was very eye-opening to me, and I loved it. But what did you think about this?
I love it because it makes a really strong case for why somebody needs to position themselves as an expert in that thing.
That's right.
Because he says they're not just they're not making the stuff up. So if you want to be the expert in what, like, I don't know if you do this all the time, but I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll go to Bard and I'll go to other ones and I'll just say, who are the experts in content marketing? Like who's driving the content marketing industry? And I'll do those things. And I want to look at the results to see what they're pulling it from. They're pulling it from books that people are writing. They're pulling it from podcasts that people are producing consistently. They're pulling it from blogs ongoing. They're pulling it from videos. So the generative AI results, if you will, that are going to come up in Google are coming from the amalgamation of the web around that topic.
Yep.
So it even makes a greater case for content marketing, if you will.
That's right.
And having a strategy around certain areas of expertise.
It's funny because I actually, and because it's always about me. Of
course it is. When it's not about me, it's about you.
One of the reasons I like this article so much is because it was one of those like, whew, somebody really smarts agree with what I said.
Oh, I know. It's like, thank God.
And so I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago because it's what struck me was the opportunity right now, and this is especially true, and this is what I wrote about for CMI, was the opportunity in B2B right now. And when I wrote about this, the future of SEO and AI together, I used the example because so many of our clients are really niche B2B. And I use the example of what's called containerized data centers, which I did a little work for a few years ago with a company and got to know that space really well as a result of it because they were figuring out their marketing and figuring out. And what containerized data centers are basically, think shipping containers, the sort of standardized shipping containers that are on big ships and on the back of trucks and all of that. And what they do is they build like literally computers and servers and stuff inside of those little those shipping containers. And what you can do then is they're portable, and you can stack them together like Lego bricks and instantly have enterprise level data center. So if you're building a hospital and you need a data center while you're building the hospital, you can stack that up in the parking lot while you build the hospital, and then of course move it in and build your data center in the hospital once it's built, so on and so forth. Those are the use cases for it. Emergency, like if there's a hurricane, you can immediately ship down 4 of those container. Now you've got email and Wi-Fi and server space and all that stuff in a place that's been hit by a disaster. On and on and on. Those are the use cases for it. And the big companies sell it, Dell and others that sell this sort of solution. But it's really niche, right? It's a really niche thing. Here's the interesting thing. I was doing some research into that, and I asked ChatGPT and many of the other artificial intelligence engines, I said, tell me about what's going on in the world of containerized data centers and help me write a piece about this, do some research into this. And it came back with a really long set of instructions. Only problem was it was about this other thing called containerized data. In other words, there's a whole thing in like Amazon Web Services and software and the way that you set up your data infrastructure, much more modern, by the way, than these containerized data centers, that's called containerized data. And you've got solutions like Red Hat Linux and Amazon Web Services and some others that are offer this sort of, it's a software problem, right? So what you do is you containerize, in other words, your data so that it can be portable across different servers and clouds and all that kind of stuff. Completely different. It didn't know the difference. And the reason that ChatGPT and artificial intelligence doesn't know the difference and gives you that weird search result when you start searching for it is because there's just not enough content to learn from. In other words, the content that's there it can learn from is the wrong content. So I was like, if you're a containerized data center or if you're an infrastructure service, you need to go out today and make sure that there's enough great, wonderful, amazing content that leads your industry, because ultimately it's going to get it wrong if it goes out and tries to best it can come up with an answer and basically doesn't put the fact that containerized data and containerized data services are two different things.
Yeah.
And that's the fascinating opportunity, I think, in what Rand is talking about here, which is you've got to make sure you've got a robust thought leadership, exceptional content program going on, because that's the only way you're going to be the answer that Google comes back with.
It's so interesting you say that. I mean, when you and I talked about, hey, should we call this thing content marketing? Right. Custom media was custom publishing, and custom media were like other options. And custom publishing was, in a lot of cases, was significant in book publishing, and custom media was all over the map. There's a lot about animation and other things, and I'm like, you're confused. Like when you type in what is custom media, you get all these crazy results back. As it's very difficult for us to educate an audience when there's confusion. So you're saying the same thing's going on. So in that case, you might say, look, we're smart marketers over here for containerized data solutions or whatever it is. It might be a smart decision to try to pivot the market in this direction.
That was, and it's so funny. It's so funny you mentioned that, because that's the other example I used in this article was because it's so fascinating, because when you and I had our first meeting in 2008, we were talking about, and I was all mad because you had taken content marketing and we're making a thing out of it, and I stalked you and I was like, I'm going to meet this guy and blah blah blah. Because on the you were coming at it from the custom media side, right? The custom content side, from the publishing side. On the marketing side, you know what we were calling it in 2006 and 2007? We were calling it article marketing. And if you go back and look at the Google search trends for the term article marketing in 2005, 2006, 2007, you'll find that it has more search traffic than inbound marketing or content marketing.
I bet, yeah.
And then it was inbound and content marketing that really took off because, well, you on one side and HubSpot on the other, and we started to make it a thing. And it's just, that's the key, is if you're trying to create a thing around your category, creating that content is the way to do that.
See, so simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun.
Why everybody doesn't do it? I don't know. It only took 10 years.
And a lot of content to do it, right? Exactly.
Yeah, but it absolutely works. Yeah, it's interesting. And I guess that's what I love about this whole thing too, is as whatever data set or language models picking up all this, it's pulling it from hopefully real sources.
Yes.
And as
Hopefully.
a company, if you care about one of these things that's important to your business, you need to be involved and get behind this thing, or somebody else will. And that's what it's really interesting what Rand talks about. It's like, hey, if you want to be found in these generative, your company can be named and probably will be named if you're writing the book, doing the podcast, doing the video, doing the whole thing. So
that's right.
Interesting.
What was your great quote? It was a couple of years ago. I quote this all the time. You said, nobody strives to be the fifth best publication in the market.
That's back to magazines. It's like, nobody wants to be the fourth or fifth book in the market. Those are those are the first ones to get cut. Why don't you just be and sometimes you just have to you take it and move, instead of, we're all having a conversation over here. Let's just move over here.
That's exactly
We'll call it something a little bit different, a little bit smaller to start, but as it gains momentum and more people get behind that, that could be the big thing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. All right. Let us get to now our rants and raves section, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us tickled and feel like we're rooting for the Browns or crying or whatever it may be. And by the way, before we get to that, I want to remind you that we've got all sorts of stuff on our YouTube channel, which is growing. Thank you very much. Loving the sort of traffic that we're getting over there, but also our thisoldmarketing.com website, where you can get the access to the show notes. You can get access to the other 388 shows. You can get voicemail to us, and we do want you to volunteer. Come on, tell us, what.
Oh, yes.
Tell us, give us a voicemail. Do it. We would love that. And of course, story ideas. We'd love getting the story ideas via the email, via the voicemail, via your questions, all of that stuff, all in one central little place. And you can subscribe to Joe's Tilt newsletter. And of course, our little Experience Advisors newsletter that we send out every so often. And do all of that. And of course, hashtag us up on all of the social media at This Old Marketing. And all right. So
is it still called a hashtag on?
I don't know.
Zeter?
I don't know if an X tag, or I don't know, on the tweeter.
Yeah, I call it Zeter.
Zeter.
Because everybody knows what you're talking about. Because if you say X, they don't really. Because everyone in all the articles, it says X, formerly known as Twitter, like Prince.
Yeah, it's just
like the symbol and whatever. It's just like, let's just call it Zeter and we're done. I know what a Zeter is.
Zeter.
I'm zeeting on Zeter.
I'm zeeting on Zeter. All right, let's get to your. What do you have to say about this documentary?
Okay, so Laurel Miltner, wonderful, commented on my LinkedIn post a week or so ago, where I was talking about Barbie and gender disparity that's going on, and just I loved Barbie because of the way it made fun of almost every category. But we did talk about, of course, whether or not that was a movie for women or for men or what gender or whatever the case is. So Laurel says, you've got to see the documentary. This changes everything. I didn't even hear about it because I'm in my bubble or whatever the case is. But this documentary came out in 2018. Sort of the main character is Gina Davis from Thelma and Louise and Tootsie fame and all sorts. But she's created an institute covering, trying to make more people aware of what's going on, specifically in Hollywood, about gender disparity. From that standpoint, it's worth watching this. It's worth watching this just to have your eyes open to what's been going on for a long, long time, why we are in the place we're at with the content coming out of Hollywood and now into all the streaming networks. And, when you just do counting, that's what I thought was so interesting when they said, okay, let's just count the number of women directors in, from 1980 on to 2005. And you say, oh, okay, there's been 1.4% of all movies that have had female directors. And you're like, whoa, like there is absolutely an issue here. And it, you can watch the documentary to find it and draw your own conclusions about why that has happened. I know a lot of this was eye-opening for me. But I guess my whole takeaway, Robert, and you and I have been through this a little bit, but this happened in content. Some of this has happened in the content marketing space, particularly content marketing world. And our friend Rand, I don't know if you remember this, but back in, I think it was 2013 or 14, we put in a process of 50-50 female, male speakers.
That's right.
And we started counting specifically because, and I'll say me, but in 2011, I had a lot of my friends that would speak at Content Marketing World. And a lot of your friends and most of our friends tended to be male, and that tended to be most of the speakers. And I wasn't made aware of this until 2012. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, there are mostly male speakers here. Okay, so then we go to 2013, we start doing 50-50. Well, the problem with that is that was our list of 50-50 male, female. When you added in all the sponsor speakers, 95% of the sponsor speakers were male. So then it tipped the scales, and Rand came back at us and said, Joe, look at your event. You're 62% male. What's going on with that? Because he actually counted all the speakers, and I'm like, no, we're 50-50. And then I realized, when you do look at it, the point is if you run a business like this, you have to care, you have to notice, you have to count, you have to do these things, especially if you're coming at it from your own particular perspective or world, like I was coming at it. So my point is, we all have to take responsibility for what's going on with this thing. And I think just doing some simple things is, hey, are we looking at male and female applicants?
Yep.
Or are we looking at different racial backgrounds, which is always good for a business if you bring in from a different background. What I loved about what the documentary talked about was how when you had a female director, female writer, those types of things, generally they did really, really well financially. So you could never come back and say, oh, no, we're going to take a hit. It was never anything like that. It was just that people are making decisions like they always made them, the way they made them, why they made them, and it was ingrained into the entire system. I think we all have our systems that we need to get around, and that's all I would say. Watch it. It's eye-opening. Thanks, Laurel, for recommending it. I don't know if you have any additional takes on that, but that was my takeaway and how I personalized it into my own finding speakers for Content Marketing World, and how we always had to do a better job or needed to do a better job.
Yeah, and they've and honestly, they've done a fantastic job over the last.
Better is the better. Yeah, they've been getting better. Better.
It gets better every year.
When I was involved. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I saw the documentary a year and a half ago or something like that, and watched it, and I think I agree with you. It's an important watch, and Gina Davis has been doing this for years and years and years, and in terms of her efforts to get more gender equality into Hollywood. And it is really eye-opening. And what I found so eye-opening was, yes, the director thing was really interesting, but just looking at the characters in movies and the way that they're portrayed in so many classic movies, and I think watching that, what it does for Barbie, interestingly enough, is that it gives you, it almost helps you get the joke. Right. In other words, there are so many jokes in Barbie about that, about the male stereotype and female stereotyping that has gone on forever in Hollywood, and the way that sort of the alpha male and all of those sorts of things. I mean, just even the scene around the campfire where
I know you love that scene where they're singing.
Where they're all singing the same song. They're all singing that same Matchbox 20 song, and they're all doing it with this facial expression that you've just seen so many times in other movies. And when I think it's actually the Margot Robbie Barbie that says, I'm going to sit here and listen to you sing it 40 times in a row and just be completely wide open. And it's so great. The joke is so good because it's so accurate. And I think that's what is really eye-opening about is a lot of this is that, you for so long, and it's starting to change. It is beginning to change, and they're doing better at it. And some of this has to do with the marketing, and some of it has to do with the way that consumers purchase, and that the culture more broadly. And so I think it's a really good sort of experience for you to have to sort of be able to be conscious and aware of everything, just like you said, for how it sort of applies in whatever business you're in.
Yeah, and I mean the thing that hits me, I see it all the time where you'll see a marketing panel, and it's 4 white guys.
Yeah,
I'm like
a manel, they call it. Yeah,
yeah. I'm like, come on, who's not thinking? I just don't understand it. Where we should be far better at this than we are.
That's right.
So
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
All right, what is
right.
your?
Well,
you have a rave, I would imagine.
It is a rave, absolutely, 100%. CMI for the second year in a row has done this career and salary outlook research, and it's just really good. It's just a really good piece. Our friend and family, Claire McDermott, helped put all this together. The report for us, and it is just really good, and it goes through a number of things. And basically, the headline, more than just sort of the where people are in salaries, and that's always a really funky thing to do with this kind of research, because there's so many differences between, speaking of gender, speaking of region, speaking of urban versus suburban versus, all the different kinds of disparities. It becomes a very complex set of research, and statistical relevance certainly comes into play here. So broadly speaking, the study looks at things like salary and where people are in their jobs and those sorts of things. The more salient piece, I think, is, and the research this year went purposely into that, was sort of the impact of generative AI into content roles. And the headline is that there's a really interesting thing going on, which is right now, content marketers in specific are really kind of freaked out at the moment. And I'm laying this right at the feet of the tools that are getting marketed out there about all of the fear, uncertainty, and all of that is, auto magically create, all this and create all of that. And a lot of, I think, the toxic freak out right now that content marketers are having is because they're worried. They're generally, the research found, they're generally happy in their jobs, but they're very worried. And by the way, they're very open to new opportunities from other companies. And that's where my head really went to. Like, the big aha for me was how open content marketers are now to other positions based on where they are in their own. And it's because there's a lack of career path. There are so many large businesses, and this includes the clients that we work with all of the time, so more of an anecdotal data point than anything else. But there's no, basically content marketers in big companies have one of three things they can do once they reach sort of that senior manager status, right? They can, one, go off into some other part of marketing, right? They can go off to social media, they can go off to product, they can go off to comms, they can go off to something that's not content marketing. They can matriculate up, through the career ladder that's there. Or two, they can go to a corollary position at some other company and hope to do better. Or three, they can break out and start their own consulting firm. That's kind of the only three options right now. And so my encouragement, and this is something I'm writing about right now that'll come out on CMI, is my encouragement is that there is an opportunity right now for businesses to create a formal career path for content as a strategic function in the business. We talk a lot about a documented strategy. We talk a lot about how content needs to be a strategy function in businesses today, and how it needs to be more than just an on-demand vending machine of content from tactical executioners and all those kinds of things. What we don't talk a lot about, and what I really want to encourage businesses to think about, is how do you make that an actual career path for someone within the organization? Because talent acquisition in the next few years, for those that are really good at harnessing a brand's voice into content and doing that across all the different areas, sales, marketing, comms, all of that, is going to be a differentiator. And we've talked about it on this show, whether it's from search, whether it's from AI, whether it's from anything that you're looking at in terms of what's happening, automation that's happening right now with the idea of content, the idea of having great talent at the core of how businesses use content to differentiate themselves in a marketplace is going to be key. And so the best way to do that is to provide for the ability for people to stay with you, be great talent to stay and grow and matriculate through the business to ultimately become the senior level managers in that business. And so the research is fantastic. And to me, the career pathing is really the most interesting part of the findings, but also where content marketers are right now with their AI journey, and how one of the things that gave me great hope and heartened me, quite honestly, was the biggest value that content marketers seem to be getting right now is not in content creation, but rather in research and topics and some of the things that we were just talking about, and using AI for that. And I think I'm hoping that continues, and I'm hoping that really what we start to see is that AI is just a tool to expand the talent of our content marketers to do great things and hopefully harness it a bit better with a career path. So just a fantastic piece of research and just very insightful for me and hopefully for others.
It's really good and really timely. And it fits right in with my Content Marketing World presentation, actually, which is entitled How to Properly Quit Your Marketing Job.
There it is.
So that you mentioned three things. I'm squarely in the third camp.
Okay, there you go.
So
there you have it. All right.
I think there's a way to do that. But anyways,
what's going on for you this week?
Oh man, what is going on? We're in a week. We have a very special vacation. This is my wife's vacation. We're going to Nantucket.
Oh, Nantucket's fun.
So yeah, so next week is get all the stuff done.
Okay.
Joe gets all the stuff done, so we can go and I can put the out office on and do what we need to do in Nantucket. So I've never been there. Very much looking forward to it.
It's lovely. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful place. Yeah.
I cannot wait. How about you? What do you got going on?
Well, it's interesting. So here we are in the latter part of August now. And here in LA, we're expecting a hurricane. Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yes, that's right. There's actually a hurricane crawling up the coast of Mexico. Now, by the time it gets to us, it won't be a hurricane. It might be a tropical storm. But for us to get rain at all, much less a tropical storm at the end of August, is just weird. It's just very weird. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week are supposed to be like crazy rainy. And it's just everybody around here is just kind of going, what? Wow. So insert global warming and climate change message here, but yeah, it's just.
So that'll give you some time though. On Saturday, you can install your rain barrel.
There it is.
So you can collect all that water that never comes.
Everybody is like, I've never seen so many people be happy that we're getting a tropical storm, right? It's like, it's a good thing. It's ultimately great. More rain is great for us. We'll take it. We will. It
sounds like a movie though. The Hollywood hurricane.
Yeah, the Hollywood hurricane. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. The weather people are besides themselves with giddiness that they actually have something to report on. Yeah.
Jeez, unbelievable.
All right. Yes. Well, fantastic. We will see you all again next week with another wonderful brand new show. Until we see you next week, just remember, everybody, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week on This Old Marketing.